I can feel it in the air tonight. I've been waiting for this moment all my life. It's the top 10 of the EP 100 on the Extended Play Podcast with Ian Tank.
It's the Extended Play Podcast with Ian Tank. We are a music discussion show without the hipster snobbery. This week, once again, brought to you by Shanky's Whip.
All right, we're going to start off with...
I didn't have anything lined up.
Now available as a...
yeah, it's like a gift set.
I guess. I mean, it's packaged together.
Again, no official sponsorship.
No,
yet.
we're doing this for the love of the game.
That's right. But you get this cool coffee mug, right?
Yeah, look at that. You get a mug. You get a fifth of Shanky's Whip.
I mean, it's worth a try.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Shanky's Whip.
All that aside, it's time. It's time for the top 10 of the EP 100. The top 100 albums of our lifetime, 1980 to 2020. We're here, and I'm excited to get started.
I am too.
Yeah.
And this is it. And not just our lifetime, it's the most important lifetime.
I mean, let's be honest.
Right.
The best generation really is right here.
It is.
Fuck the boomers.
It is.
Yeah.
So this is it. Those of you that have been following the countdown, thank you very much. Mm-hmm. And now you're going to get rewarded, kind of, for your patience and loyalty with 10 great albums.
Yeah. And I would imagine there are going to be a lot of people joining us just now. They'll see top 10 best albums of our lifetime.
That's true.
I'll link up over here to a playlist of all our episodes where we go through the EP 100. We handle 10 albums at a time. The very first episode, we explain our process, how we got there. So go back and watch all those. I think if you really enjoyed this episode, you're going to love that one.
Which is important because this is not like what you're used to seeing.
Right.
It's actually good and well thought out.
Exactly.
No agenda. That's the important thing.
Oh, that's true.
Zero agenda.
Yeah, we don't care about seeming cool.
No, we already know.
Hip.
Look
or
at us.
Yeah.
Lost cause. All right.
Yeah.
We don't need to establish or maintain any credibility. We're already pathetic.
Right. That's right.
So you're getting honest because we have nothing else to lose.
I mean, pathetic is rough, but I would say not hip. I think that's fine.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do it. So coming in at number 10. So this one we're going to do a little bit different. Normally in the past countdowns, we've been whoever ranked the album higher because we independently ranked the albums and then combined them. That's how the list got made up. Normally whoever ranked it higher would talk about it. This time we're going to kind of be a little bit more of a free-for-all because we both really love these albums. There's one or two big gaps in albums here, but everything else we were pretty damn close to it being in the top 10.
And funny you say that.
Yeah.
And good segue.
Yeah.
Because at number 10, it's Tori Amos' Little Earthquakes, which we both ranked the exact same number.
Incredible.
So there is no higher ranking.
That's right.
Yeah, we both ranked it at number 18.
Independently. Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, Tori Amos' Little Earthquakes, 1992, 12 tracks. 58 minutes.
Well done.
Shout out to my boy right there.
That's right.
They all 10 of these, by the way, predictably so, were blind degrees, meaning real Cliff Notes version for the new viewers here. We narrowed the list down to 198 candidates, and we both picked our 100 from that. And if we both picked it, it was entered into this list, and then we ranked them in a whole separate laborious process, but all of these were albums that we both said should be there.
Yep.
So, Little Earthquakes. What are your thoughts?
I just re-listened today.
Okay.
I came to Little Earthquakes from Under the Pink. I think we've talked about this in a previous episode of the countdown. That was my first exposure to Tori Amos. I think I was listening to it contemporarily as it came out.
And my exposure is all through you. Okay. I'm living with you at this time.
There you go. Right. Yeah. Right. So I had to go backwards and. You're one to do this. You're one to discover an artist and then go through the whole back catalog. I usually don't, but in this instance, I remember I did right away. I'm like, I seem to remember one of the songs on the album being on, like Crucify was on MTV or something like that. So I'm like, okay, I'll go check it out. And obviously I ranked it higher than I ranked Under the Pink. So I really enjoyed it. Again, so incredibly, well, for one thing, I wanted to tackle, and I would love to do this in another episode, the opening track or the opening lyrics in every album. Because I think it matters so much. And I think in all great albums, there's something striking about the first moments of the first song.
Right. You're really setting the tone.
Yes. And Crucify is the first track. And she just goes.
Yeah.
you hear one drum beat and then it's her getting into the lyrics. Every finger in the room is pointing at me. Great fucking first line, by the way.
Essentially a debut album too.
Yes, right.
It's not Why Can't Tori Read, but
right. Right. So I really love that. You're like, whoa, where am I? I mean, you got to catch up really quickly, and it puts you, makes you feel a little off balance, which I like feeling off balance when I'm listening to new music and trying to find my footing. So, yeah, I mean, what a great re-listen this was. So many, it was a great re-listen for the songs that weren't the singles. Do you have a list of the singles?
Well, yes, I do.
Okay, I figured you would.
The singles on this album, Me and a Gun, which if you want to, I know.
Okay.
It was a single.
Wow.
If you want to make a party really awkward, really fast, go ahead and play Me and a Gun.
Yeah.
Anyway, Me and a Gun, Silent All These Years, China, Winter, and Crucify were the singles. The non-singles, which I agree are some of the more interesting ones, Girl, Precious Things, Happy Phantom, Leather, Mother, Tear in Your Hand, which is my favorite song.
So good.
And Little Earthquakes.
Oh, incredible. Yeah. And that's just it. I was struck by how good of course,
Price number 10.
We ranked these a long time ago, though.
Yes.
It's been a long time since, because we're doing our homework every week and we're listening to this stuff in between. But yeah, the non-singles, the non-popular, the non-video tracks, how solid they were, how they, like Under the Pink, capture a wide range of musical styles.
Yep.
They show her piano virtuosity. They show her vocal range.
Yep.
They show her lyrical experimentation. I mean, all of it is there on the first album.
Yep.
God, what a fucking debut. It's really impressive.
Yeah, to your point there, one of my notes here was that I don't know that there's ever been a better mix of brutal sincerity, technical prowess, and songcraft. Like just those three.
Absolutely.
Right? Like to be at that level of mastery of an instrument.
Yeah.
But also be so incredibly sincere.
Absolutely.
There's this weird paradox. Normally, the more instrumentally gifted someone is, usually their lyrics are more boring.
Yeah, or they're a crappy singer. Yeah, or non-existent, or they're a crappy singer. Yeah.
And this album is so good that even the B-sides would have made a great album.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know they're not going to ring a lot of bells, but if I'll give you a list, maybe check them out because I'm familiar because I was really into Tori for a period of time.
Yes.
Biggest regret of my college years, and that is saying something. Believe me, there's a lot of candidates on that list. Tori Amos, 1995, Wharton Center.
Oh, wow. Small venue.
Campus of Michigan State University, right behind our dorm.
Jesus.
And they had an auction to have like front row seats and meet her.
Okay.
And my account was just flush with funds from my first internship.
Okay.
And the winning bid was like $570. Now, granted, adjusted for inflation and everything, but it was front row seats and meet Tori.
Jesus.
And I'm like, oh, it's a little too much for me.
Whoops.
So let that be a lesson, kids. Always, if you have a hero, an idol, whatever.
Yes.
I mean, you're going to be disappointed when you meet them, but it's worth doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the B-sides were Upside Down, Take to the Sky, Sweet Dreams, Sugar, Mary. If you listen to they would have made a good album.
Yeah. All recorded at the same time as this? Amazing.
Yeah. And because she was, I mean, this was really at the peak of like the 5-inch CD, CD single B-side.
Yeah.
Everyone, remember she had the Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Right. Thank You, the Led Zeppelin.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Angie.
Yeah.
So many additional songs that didn't make the cut. But nothing, in my opinion, has been like this before or since other than other Tori albums. I mean, again, Kate Bush, there's other artists that are in the same vein. But again, with the piano mastery, so to speak, and some of the awkwardness too, like some of the like overt sexuality and things to make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, and make men uncomfortable in particular purposefully, which I really, again, I think I mentioned in the Under the Pink episode, or when we reviewed Under the Pink or whatever it made it on our list, that I think she was the first female artist's CD I owned. And yeah, it made me see things through a female lens for the first time as a 18-year-old, and it fucking blew me away.
There's a song Flying Dutchman, which is another one of the B-sides, supposed to be on the album. It just, they cut it because they couldn't fit any more on vinyl.
Jesus, really?
Yeah, they're like, oh, I guess that one's not on it.
Wow.
And fun fact, her record label asked her to move to London to work on the album.
Okay.
Since they thought the UK was more likely to reward an eccentric performer.
Oh, wow.
So the label was like, you know what? You're a little too much for us States. Why don't you go give it a shot in the UK? And she now lives in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah. Lives in Wales.
Okay. Nice.
Or maybe England. I don't know. Yeah. Somewhere it's cold and overcast.
Well, there's ferries.
Yes. Yes. And Sprites.
Right.
I think Tori probably like has Breakfast on Stonehenge or something. Right. Breakfast on Stonehenge would be a great album title.
Great album title. Absolutely.
Yeah, write that down.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. You want to go back and forth on the numbers? You want to do the numbers?
Yeah, we can go back and forth. All right. Okay. So number 9 is Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses. Not in a lot. Again, another reason why we do this list. This is not making anybody else's top 10s. Any of the popular, the music blogs or the music periodicals, such as they are. Yeah. So we both agreed on this. I ranked it 26th. Tank ranked it 6th.
Yeah. I mean, probably a little high.
Okay.
If I go back, but not out of bounds.
It ends up at number 9, and I'm totally fine with that.
That's why the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
We get there eventually.
I don't have the track listing for Appetite.
Lucky for you.
I knew you would.
Yeah. Do you want to tell how many minutes
this is distracting me for some reason. Shanky's Whip. Take a dip in Shanky's Whip.
We'll bring it back later as needed.
Sure, yeah.
Singles, It's So Easy, Welcome to the Jungle, Sweet Child of Mine, Paradise City, and Night Train. I don't remember Night Train as a single.
I don't either.
I think some of these were maybe bigger in Europe.
Okay.
Whatever. The non-single tracks, Out to Get Me, Mr. Brownstone, My Michelle, Think About You, You're Crazy, You're Fucking Crazy, Anything Goes, and Rocket Queen.
God damn.
Everyone loves Rocket Queen.
Rocket Queen's great. Mr. Brownstone's great.
How is Mr. Brownstone not a single?
I don't know. Was it because there's a line in there?
I mean, it's something about drugs.
There's something objectionable that they'd have to censor. But I mean, this is just a fucking fantastic rock album. You don't need any context for it. I think it's infinitely re-listenable. Yes. I think it's one of those rare albums. Like if Welcome to the Jungle comes on, if Sweet Child of Mine comes on, just you're out somewhere, I leave it on. And if you know, for me, if you're watching the previous episodes, my things just don't last for a while. I over listen to them and then I can never listen to them again. Appetite's not that way. Particularly, again, the non-single tracks. But Sweet Child of Mine, that solo has got to be up there with the greatest solos of all time. Slash's solos were underrated. I mean...
Our periods are synced up. That's how in line we are.
They are. That solo is so killer. I could listen to it over and over and over again. Sweet Child of Mine's such a great song. It's such a great song that even Sheryl Crow's cover wasn't even that bad. And I don't like Sheryl Crow. So
yeah, no,
that's how much the song stands up.
No, I think it arguably made it possible for Metallica and the other heavier bands to become mainstream.
Oh, okay.
I mean, remember 1987. So let's go back to the landscape in 1987.
Yeah.
This was like a harder, grittier edge than anything.
Yes.
I mean, right now it just seems innocuous and it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
At the time, everything was all like hairspray and bright.
It was.
And it wasn't uncomfortable. And they were uncomfortable, at least at the beginning. I mean, again, it kind of blended into what we came to expect from rock bands.
Yeah.
But I don't know that you have like the Black Album being what it is, or even grunge.
Probably not.
I mean, I think Guns N' Roses was the bridge from hair metal, and they may call it hair metal, but I think it's not.
That's not fair.
But it was the bridge from hair metal to grunge, and I think metal being accepted in the 90s. I don't think it's coincidence that when metal was finally accepted, it was after Appetite.
No, that totally makes sense. Yeah, things that stuck out to me, Axl is a sordid character to say the least, but the first two albums, and this becomes a theme throughout the top 10 for me, the sincerity and how much these guys clearly cared about what they were doing, right? And the attention to detail, both musically and lyrically. Like it's not your standard run. Again, think of all the other songs, like not only what the bands look like, but the songs are love songs or, like you're dealing with like Cherry Pie, right? At this, right? Is that 87?
I mean, it's 86
it's
of your
right around there.
It might be after this.
Oh, it might be. I mean, there you go. But they're lyrically interested. They're talking about, I don't know, Welcome to the Jungle. Well, everybody knows I'm not going to explain what Welcome to the Jungle is about, but there is Sweet Child of Mine, which is basically a love song. But, but yeah, just the grittier, both in the sound and in the lyrics, I really appreciate.
And I've got some more fun facts for you.
Yeah, go for it.
Speaking of Sweet Child of Mine, this is fucking crazy. This just shows how prolific they were at the time.
Okay.
You Could Be Mine.
Oh, yeah.
November Rain and Don't Cry were all finished songs at this point.
No shit.
Yeah. They were all considered for the album. November Rain in particular was ruled out because Sweet Child of Mine was the ballad already on the album.
Oh, okay.
So November Rain was in the can when Appetite for Destruction was done.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and you hit my point on the Slash solos. I mean, that solo in particular. And what brought it up, and kind of funny, the reason I had that thought was I went to that a couple weeks ago. I went to you've all seen ads for this, probably on Facebook.
Okay.
If you're of a certain age.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the candlelight performances where, and I went to one of those, and it was a classic rock night. And again, it's fucked up that the stuff we like is classic rock. But that day was coming. But it's 2 violins, a viola, and fucking some other woodwind instrument that I'm blanking on.
Right.
Anyway, but this lady did the solo, Sweet Child of Mine, violin. It was amazing. And it made me realize, like, God damn, that's a good solo.
Again, if it translates to a whole different medium, like style of music, absolutely.
Yep.
Cool.
So yeah, number 9.
Appetite for Destruction.
Number 8, which by the way, Appetite, 12 tracks, 54 minutes. Now, this is a good place to put this in because we're still at the bottom end. It is fucking incredible how linear the amount of tracks and runtime is for these 10 albums.
Oh, really?
Yeah, check it out.
Okay.
12 tracks, 58, 12, 54, 11 and 58, 14 and 48, 11 and 48, 12 and 51, 11 and 52, 11 and 52, 11 and 54.
Holy shit.
It's an incredibly tightly bunched.
There's got to be a reason for that.
I mean, maybe it's when maybe that's the sweet spot of I have so much good material, but I have to cut it off somewhere.
Yeah, sure. Wow.
I mean, I'm sure that the 54-minute or whatever is probably CD runtime and stuff like that.
Right.
But pretty fucking crazy. I mean, because I was, doing them like, God damn, these are all the same.
That's incredible.
Anyway, number 8.
Yes.
Which, hold on, I got to prep for this.
That's right.
That should be a little hint for you right there.
Wait for it.
Number 8 is Jeff Buckley with the album Grace, which came out in 1994. 11 tracks, 58 minutes. I ranked it number 30.
I ranked it number 1.
Yeah.
It is simply the best.
Better than all the rest on his list.
That's right.
Yeah, and this is going to be mostly E here. I don't have a lot to say. I put it at 30 strictly out of respect.
Okay.
Not just for you, but for the fact that I listened to it, I'm like, yep, this is a great album. I might not listen to it a lot, but it's a great album.
Sure.
So.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, so it's tough to know where to stop. I feel like I could, with your number 1 album, you could talk about it forever. I've read multiple books about Jeff Buckley. I've read multiple books about the recording of Grace. So, I mean, for people that aren't familiar, I don't want to walk through the whole history of Jeff Buckley, but just know that he died incredibly young. Only one actual album that came out during his lifetime, which was Grace. He was recording a second album when he tragically drowned. So there's not a lot of output. There was an EP before this, which was a bunch of live recordings at a coffee shop / bar. But yeah, this is basically the whole of his work. And one of the books I read was basically a scrapbook of like all his papers that they found after he died, like all these all these journals, all these clippings that he clipped from the newspaper and from magazines. And what I was struck by, I think this says a lot about the album, is the sincerity and the ability to take something so seriously and be so earnest emotionally, lyrically, without it being cheesy and eye-rolly and too saccharine. And I think that's, first of all, that's one of the things that really impresses me. This is a guy who always wanted to be the biggest rock star in the world. That was his, and we talked about that, I think, about Coldplay earlier on in the countdown. An absolutely singular sound. Almost, there's no 2 songs that sound really alike on this album. And the range he covers, from Nina Simone covers, which he kind of puts his own stamp on, obviously. The fact that he can cover a Nina Simone song with his vocal range, which I'll get into in a second. He sings like a 16th century carol. It's basically just him, I think, one instrument. There's a full-on rocker, and then there are the weird in-between songs, rock songs and torch songs. So again, really eclectic. And if we're going back to what Tank said early on about like you have to bring these albums with you to a desert island, this is why this is so great, because it's all over the place. Right. But it's still one vision.
And I'll hit you with the track listing.
Yeah.
The singles were Grace, Last Goodbye, So Real, and Eternal Life.
Okay.
The non-singles, Mojo Pin, Lilac Wine, Hallelujah, which I'm sure you'll talk about more. Lover, You Should Have Come Over, Corpus Christi Carol, and Dream Brother.
Yeah, there you go. Dream Brother, probably my favorite track and the last track on the album. So his voice, Jeff Buckley's voice, so this is a guy with a 4-octave vocal range, and it's very, for those not familiar, it's a select group. There's a very small group of people that make popular music that have that kind of range. Sure, if you sing opera, you probably have that kind of range. So to be able to sing in that wide range, you get the incredible highs and the low lows, and you get that broad range, which is beautiful. So if you know any song by Jeff Buckley, you probably know Hallelujah. It's just sort of a pop culture phenomenon for a number of reasons, from the OC, from there's a Rufus Wainwright version, which is on the Shrek soundtrack, which actually I think is most people's entry into it. They think it's a Rufus Wainwright song or a Jeff Buckley song. It's not. It's a Leonard Cohen song. Jeff Buckley is doing John Cale's cover because apparently the original had like 90 verses. Okay. And he would and Leonard Cohen he was a poet, right? And a singer. He would randomly put in different verses when he was performing it. Okay. So there's no two recordings of it that are the same. That's neat. So John Cale did his version, and then Buckley did his version of that. Okay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. If Hallelujah is the only song you know by Jeff Buckley, you got to listen to this album because again, the range is so incredible. A Man Out of Time, romantic in every sense of the word. Again, this earnestness would probably be seen as cringy today, but it's not for whatever reason in 1994 and to me today. He's the only artist that I can recall who just by the timbre of his voice can bring me to tears. Where he hits either a particular high note or a gravelly note. And it's like, there are notes like that, I think, like that can actually make you sick, right? Isn't there like a...
Is there a note that makes you shit?
Something like that.
The brown note?
Yeah. There are notes that can have, like, you can specifically play them and they can have a specific physiological effect on you. His voice can do that to me. And I listen to a lot of music, man. And for anything that can move me that much, absolutely, it deserves a high place on the list.
I have my only other bullet point and note here is that to me it feels like he was the male Tori Amos.
Interesting. Okay.
Because like imagine if Tori had one album and died. If it was Little Earthquakes, then that's it. I think we would feel very similar.
I think so. I think you're probably right.
Yeah. So that's probably maybe that would have been his path, right? Is like but yeah, who knows what he could have been?
Yeah. So a few tidbits here. This record only sold 187,000 copies in his lifetime. And then has gone on, obviously, multi-platinum, way more famous in death than in life. He put the band together just a few weeks before they recorded this album. He was a solo artist. He did not have a band. And they're like, you got a record contract on the basis of these live performances at this coffee shop. And he's like, well, I guess I got to throw a band together. And they threw them together, got in the studio and made this. Absolute classic. Tom York recorded Fake Plastic Trees after seeing Jeff Buckley perform.
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, because Tom York at this time in Fake Plastic Trees is on the Bends.
Yes,
is on the Bends. He didn't want to record it because he thought it was too vulnerable and that the vocals were too high and it was just too much for him emotionally. And then he saw Buckley sing the way he does, and he said, "Okay, if he can do it, I can do it."
Nice.
Yeah. So we don't have Fake Plastic Trees without this album, which is incredible. So simultaneously mournful and joyous. It's captivating from the very first vocal line. He does sort of like this vocal warm up on Mojo Pin, which is the first track, where you can hear him start to, he's just vocalizing, and you're in for something different. Anyway, I can't say enough good things about the album. I didn't bring my records to actually show I own this one, but
he does. I've seen it.
Yeah, Jeff Buckley, Grace, in my opinion, the best album of our lifetime. Okay,
very nice.
Number 7. Is, I don't have the data on it, Low End Theory by Tribe Called Quest. Lay it on me.
It was released in 1991. He had it at number 16. I had it at number 8. 14 tracks, 48 minutes. While I'm here, the only singles are only 3. Check the Rhyme, Jazz, parentheses, We've Got, and Scenario.
Okay.
The non-single tracks, Excursions, Bugging Out, Rap Promoter, Butter, Verses from the Abstract, Show Business, Vibes and Stuff, The Infamous Date Rape, Everything is Fair, Sky Pager, and What?
I don't remember what.
Like, what would be my penal cord if it wasn't brown? Yeah.
Right.
What are the youth if they ain't rebelling?
That's right.
What's Ralph Cramden if he ain't yelling? At or not? What is Coke snort? What is position if there is no contorting?
I mean, you just by reciting those lyrics tells you how important this album was to us. I mean, this might hold the record for the most listened to album of all time for me. I don't know that there's a single album I've listened to more than the Low End Theory. I
mean, if you took, there's something about this album that made the lyrics so memorable.
Yes.
And like Bugging Out, if you just played the instrumental to Bugging Out in front of a room of, I don't know, 100 music fans our age, probably like 30 of them probably know every word of that song.
Just recite it word for word.
Yep.
Oh my God, Excursions is so good. They had t-shirts that have the opening lines to that I really want to get. It says, back in the day when I was a teenager, before I had status and before I had a pager. And then it goes on to the back. It's incredible because lyrically, again, they weren't doing anything that was revolutionary lyrically. They were just so honest. There was such a balance of heartfelt stuff and just silliness with Fife's lyrics in particular. Yeah. It was just fun.
Yeah, it's like they were a dead center between NWA and De La Soul at this point in time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And closer to De La maybe a little bit. But yeah, it was, I think we just weren't used to hearing hip-hop for the sake of hip-hop.
Yes.
Like without an agenda.
Yes.
Because again, this is coming off gangster rap.
Yes.
Which has a purpose.
Absolutely.
And the De La's and then like the Fat Boys and I guess LL's the closest.
Right.
But there wasn't a whole lot of, especially this jazzy kind of organic rootsy kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah. And you have to talk about that, the jazziness, if you can talk about this album, right? Because you've got like Ron Carter, who's like a famous bass player actually on this album, plays on this album. There's all sorts of jazz samples. There's a song called Jazz, right? We've got that. Right. So that was new. And this is not, I feel like the Guru's Jazzmatazz was like, that came after this, I think.
It felt forced.
It felt exactly right. Took the words out of my mouth. It felt forced. This seemed totally natural. This seemed like, to have the vision to go, like, I'm going to take the black music, right? The first American music, and I'm going to repurpose it, and I'm going to make it fit to the current, what is in the zeitgeist of black music. How no one else saw to do something like this is pretty incredible, but they did, and they should, they get all the regards for that.
They were, in the notes I read about this, so they were actively renegotiating with their label and changing management while they were making this album.
Okay.
So many of the references, because that's the one lyrical thing that stands out is, I didn't make meticulous notes of, but it seems like there's so many songs just like, why do they keep talking about their management and record labels?
Like, if there ain't no dough, then there ain't no show. There's a lot about getting paid, right? Yeah. Yeah, that was weird. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
There was a whole, and there's a whole paragraph on it, but a lot of turmoil about the label.
Okay.
And their management.
Gotcha.
My note on this is that you could argue that Scenario is the most meaningful rap single in hip hop history.
Gosh.
So because it launches Busta Rhymes.
Right.
So someone that I have in my top five, right? When we did top five MCs.
Right.
So, I mean, and like Charlie Brown and,
Dinko D.
The other leaders of the new school, not so much. But I mean, on its own merits, without, the whole introducing Busta Rhymes, but there, I mean, again, think hip hop singles. Which there aren't. I mean, normally hip hop is viewed in album form,
especially in the 80s and 90s, like we talked about with Public Enemy. There was a very targeted thing to do a whole album. Yeah.
But I mean, you could argue maybe the first big crossover for like real rap and hip hop that everyone knew.
Everyone knew. Yes.
Because it's the kind of thing everyone knew. Like even people that don't listen to rap.
Yes.
Before that, the people that knew rap that didn't listen to rap was like Young MC and MC Hammer.
Yeah.
But like Scenario was something that was like, it was straight hip hop and it became hugely mainstream successful.
Yes. It was a time where something that had so much artistic credibility could also be just a pop or a radio hit.
And a great video.
Remember
like the Windows 3.1 setup?
It somehow still looks really good. It doesn't look cheesy. I really like that. Again, I play, tidbit for me, I used to play this listen to this in headphones while playing Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Nice.
And I play it over and over and over again until I beat the game. How long? I was not a very good at video games, so it took me a long time. But that's part of the reason why this is probably my most listened to it. When it was a tape. It was a tape in a Sony Walkman. But
nice.
Fucking fantastic. Number 7.
Yeah. We are now up to number 6, which is Radiohead, Kid A. That album came out in the year 2000. E had it at number 7. I had it at number 16. So actually pretty much a flip of the low end theory. 11 tracks, 48 minutes, no singles.
No singles, right.
E will, I'm sure, have more on this to come, but just to go through the songs real quick, Everything in Its Right Place, Kid A, The National Anthem, How to Disappear Completely, Tree Fingers, Optimistic, In Limbo, Idiotech, Morning Bell, and Motion Picture Soundtrack.
Yeah, we've teased on this for a while that I really want to get Tank's perspective on this because he was just inexperienced in the world of Radiohead before we started doing this countdown, and he's really obviously ranking it at, what did you rank it at again? 16.
Yep.
Something must have happened during the listening. So, but I can get into some stuff for me. This is another one where obviously being probably like a huge Radiohead fan, read multiple books on it, but bought the special editions. I know the B-sides and all that kind of stuff. This is their 4th album, by the way. So Pablo Honey, The Bends, OK Computer, Kid A, and Amnesiac, right, one after the other.
Okay.
And then it's Hail to the Thief, and then so on and so forth. So this is a bizarre fucking sounding album. I would not recommend starting your Radiohead listening with Kid A. It was bizarre on purpose. A lot of very nonsensical lyrics. Tom York, the lead singer, was literally taking stuff out of hats, like phrases, jotting them down, putting them in the hat, and pulling them out and putting them up next to each other. The idea was that during OK Computer and the previous history of the other 3, so Pablo, Benz, and OK Computer, he felt he was too vulnerable.
Okay.
He had a nervous breakdown while on tour for OK Computer. He's like, I'm not letting anybody in anymore. And these lyrics are going to be obtuse and borderline nonsensical in a lot of instances, which what I like about that, in the same way what I loved about Sigur Ros's Untitled, which was an imaginary language called Hopelandic, is that when things are sort of nonsensical and you're more word painting and you're putting images together, like Bon Iver as well, you can take from it what you will. So individual lines will grab you, and you'll connect them to something in your life, and they don't have the weight of a story that the lyricist is telling.
Right.
You can bring 100% of it comes from you. Yeah. So
I mean, it has a longer shelf life that way too, right?
Yes.
Like it, and I mean, I know again, it's kind of hokey, but it can be so many things to so many people, which is much more powerful than here's my story.
Right.
I don't have a lot of notes here.
Okay.
But the one that I do have is that the best compliment I can give this album is that I feel it's one of the best I've ever heard. I listened to it over and over, and I couldn't really tell you much about any of the tracks.
Right.
Like,
I mean, they do stand apart from one another.
Of course.
Yeah.
But I just don't know which one's which because I listened to the whole album.
Right. This is definitely an album where you don't put on just one song.
No.
Yeah. I can't imagine doing that. You wouldn't put one of these songs on a mixtape or on a playlist.
Like Everything in Its Right Place, I can sort of hear the words in my head. Tree Fingers is an instrumental anyway. But I mean, I've listened to this album at least 100 times, and I would probably still struggle if you played me a 5-second clip to be like, to which song
which song is this? Yeah. So I should explain, I said a moment ago, this is not a good place to start with Radiohead. No. It's very experimental. So Tom York was listening to a lot of Aphex Twin and a lot of weird ambient and dance music at this time, and it's a clear influence. The guitars are almost all but gone from this album, particularly when you're comparing OK Computer, the previous album, to this one. There's not a lot of guitar. And they were known as, they were like battling U2 as the biggest rock band in the world. And then they just decided to drop all their guitars.
Yeah.
A lot of experimental sounds. Tom York's voice doesn't even sound like it normally sounds on a lot of tracks.
It's very heavily processed.
Yeah. Yep. So, but it all works somehow. There is this pervasive feeling, I think why this maybe couldn't be a number 1 album of all time for me, because there's a pervasive feeling of dread throughout this album. It's fairly dark. Yeah. And
it's not a summer album.
No. And if
it's not the Mango song.
No, it's not the Mango song. If there is any connective thread with the lyrics, that there is, like there was on OK Computer, a fear of things to come, a fear of sort of like the internet, technology.
It's appropriate.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So,
speaking of Aphex Twin, it's like a little off topic.
Yeah.
Not entirely, because it's close to my number 1 album, but Kanye West, Beautiful Twisted Dark Fantasy, there's a song called Blame Game, which is largely a piano sample.
Okay.
That piano sample is from an Aphex Twin song called like April, it's in French, but April 14th.
Yeah, I know the song.
I listened to some Aphex Twin to go to sleep.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of...
Ambient Works Volume 2 is the big one. Yeah.
and I'm in bed about to fall asleep, and I hear the piano sample from Blame Game. Like I sit up in bed, like, hold on. It's just so incredibly rare that you are listening to, you have no idea.
Oh, you didn't even know yet. I see.
Absolutely.
I see. That's great.
I'm just sitting here and I'm like, and I get my phone. I'm like, did I put it on random or something?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's like, I explained in a previous episode when I was watching a Kraftwerk documentary, and it was just a Coldplay song. Like Coldplay just lifted the entire, whatever melody.
Yeah.
So just another, I mean, the author of one of the books, and again, this is a guy who wrote an entire book on Kid A.
Yeah.
He said that side one, track one, everything in its right place, might be the best side one, track one of all time. And I can see it. It's arguable, at least. Everything, and that's everything in its right place. So, this shift allowed them to, if you're talking about context, and we did not take context into this, like that would, I think other top 100, top 10 lists take in like how this changed things or the cultural impact. And we did not. We were just solely focused on the music. That being said, the reason why Radiohead can still put out great albums today is because they did this. Yes. Because they decided to make a left turn and they decided to evolve as a band. And that allowed them to basically set a precedent. And when that was successful.
Yes.
Right.
Now you got to pass.
Right. Exactly right. And they can do whatever they want now. They can take years off. They can have side projects and they can come back together and still put out a great album into their 50s and 60s. So, so that's Kid A.
Nice.
Number six.
Yeah. Now we're in the top 5.
Wow. Coming in at number 5. Is there a parentheses in this title?
There is.
There is. It is parentheses, what's the story, end parentheses, Morning Glory by Oasis. Can you give me the rundown on the years and tracks, please?
You know it.
Thanks.
1995. E ranked at 11. I ranked at 7. So very tightly bunched
Very
here.
close, yeah.
12 tracks, 51 minutes. And I hope you have some pencil and paper nearby because I'm going to hit you with the singles from this album. Some might say, Roll With It, Morning Glory, Wonderwall, Don't Look Back in Anger, Champagne Supernova.
Jesus
Christ. That is a 29 Yankees murderer's row of songs.
That's enough good songs for a band's entire career.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That could be a greatest hits album and be considered a greatest hits album.
That's exactly right.
I mean, Wonderwall and Champagne Supernova alone. Those two songs are like iconic songs that a band is lucky to have one of in their career.
Absolutely.
Much less two on the same album.
That's exactly right. And their second album.
And then the unreleased songs, Hello, Hey Now, Untitled, Cast No Shadow, She's Electric, and Untitled again.
So fucking good.
Yeah. I mean, that's a ridiculous lineup of songs.
It really is.
Even Cast No Shadow's that would have been a huge hit.
I love Cast No Shadows. That used to be my favorite song in the album. I think and that's the other thing about an album like this. Your favorite songs change over time, right? Like for it's Champagne Supernova for this period of time, then it moves. Yeah, so incredible.
I know this is number 5. It's not number 1. I just want to sit down with some of these Apple 100 people.
I know.
And I want to say, okay, what's the story of Morning Glory and the fucking Lauryn Hill album? You tell me who in this room, I want someone to stand up and say, this is a better album, and then tell me why.
Yeah. Yeah. It's undeniable.
Fuck you, Apple. And fuck you.
Why not?
You know what you did. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much we need to say about this. Is another one. This one, I would say, for our listenership, you all know this album.
Right.
More than likely, you all love this album. If you don't,
I don't know.
What's your problem, man? Like, stop saying, what's your problem? Do you don't like fun? I don't like fun.
Right.
I mean,
he doesn't.
Some of the songs, fucking Grace is my number 1 album of all time.
If I had to describe him in 2 words, fun-averse.
Exactly right. And this is rock and roll the way it's supposed to be.
Yep.
It's the pinnacle, honestly, of straight up guitar rock.
Yep.
Period.
Yep. I think they skimmed against Beatles territory with this album.
100%.
Had they stayed there longer,
Well, that was what was beautiful about them too, right? Is these winking and nods to the Beatles here and there throughout their albums, at the same time basically declaring that they're better than the Beatles were, right? How cocky they were, the whole Blur versus Oasis thing, all the stuff around the band. Yeah. Whatever. That's probably neither here nor there. It's the actual songs themselves are so fucking killer.
My one bullet point is this is a ridiculous collection of great rock songs. So the fun fact, and I'm always good for a fun fact, shout out to Wikipedia. I always assumed the album cover was just the Gallagher brothers. The album cover,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure E just put it up. Maybe we'll throw it up again. But
Yeah.
it's two guys walking past each other in a street in London.
Yes.
Which is funny because they're a Manchester band,
Right,
and why are
right.
they in
Yeah,
London? But
true.
Anyway, it's not. It's a London DJ
Oh,
is the one walking towards you.
okay.
I don't remember the name.
Yeah.
Not important.
Okay.
And the walking away guy is the album sleeve designer. It gets better.
What?
The producer of the album is in the background on the left, holding the album's master tape in front of his face.
Come on. Love it. Easter
if
egg
you-
central. Yeah.
What's that?
Easter egg central.
Yes.
That means, yeah,
If you go and you zoom in on the left side, because they're walking down a street and there's people on both, maybe just on the left sidewalk, you see a guy holding up something white in front of. You can't see his face. It's their producer, and it's the album. Wow, that's fantastic.
Okay, that's pretty great.
Yeah.
Yep. You know, we mentioned this with the Alice in Chains album before. I think not enough gets made of. Not enough. They don't get lauded enough for their harmonies.
No.
I mean, it's essential to this band. I know there's people that were put off when this came out, probably just because they had a narrow point of view and hadn't listened to a lot of English or British music that sounded so overtly British with the accent. But and people said, no, I can't do it. I can't. Liam's vocals. It's the harmonies. The harmonies are so incredible, and their sense of melody just so memorable. So many memorable lines and memorable songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, amazing album, as it should be, at number 5
Number 5.
of our lifetime.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, what could possibly be better than that? Well, number 4.
That's right.
And number 4 is, and again, this is what I'm proud of, that, again, it's not going to appear on a lot of lists.
Yeah.
This high up especially. Counting Crows with the album August and Everything After. Album released in 1993. E had it at number 5. I had it at number 11. 11 tracks, 52 minutes. I know E has a lot on this one, so I'll get the singles out of the way.
No, sure.
Mr. Jones, Round Here, Rain King, A Murder of One, which, by the way, I thought A Murder of One was just a cool turn of phrase. I didn't really know that murder was for a group of crows.
Oh, okay.
So A Murder of One is, impossible.
And they reference they say Counting Crows in the album.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, right.
The non-released, which, again, an amazing list, Anna Begins, Omaha, Jumping Jesus, Marjorie Dreams of Horses, Perfect Blue Buildings, Time and Time Again, my favorite song, Ghost Train, Children in Bloom, Sullivan Street, The Ghost in You.
Jumping the what?
Jumping Jesus?
That's Jumping Jesus. What is that song about? That's not on the album.
I'm going to Wikipedia. All right, you start talking. I'm going to look this up.
All right. Yeah.
We started writing down. I'm like, what is he doing?
When I listen, this is my number 5. I think I would know the songs on it. I feel like there were other songs you listed too that were not. And Jumping Jesus, get a load of this track list.
Yeah. Because Marjorie just got a horse or something. Here's the track list. Round Here, Omaha, Mr. Jones, Perfect Blue Buildings, Anna Begins, Time and Time Again, my personal favorite song, Rain King, Sullivan Street, Ghost Train, Raining in Baltimore, and A Murder of One, which I thought was just a cool turn of phrase before I realized that murder was the name for a group of crows.
Okay.
Quite the track list.
Now we got that out of the way.
Yes.
Did you have more?
No, I literally have
okay.
one more note before I just kind of wax extemporaneously on what you're going to talk about.
Sure.
I don't know that there's a warmer, more beautiful collection of songs on this list.
Absolutely.
Again, just warmth, I think, is a big... And this album feels like its album cover looks.
Right. And I love that. Yes, it does. Just the handwritten sort of,
Orange.
The orange and yellow.
A glowing hue.
Yes, absolutely. That was one of my first notes. This is an almost... No, it's not almost. It's a perfectly sequenced album and a perfect collection of songs. There's once I don't like Raining in Baltimore. Otherwise, it is without Raining in Baltimore. If they just remove it, is a perfect album for me. It's number 1 of all time. So I was interested because this is so high on our list, and again, this is why we did this list, right? Because it belongs in the top 10 of our lifetime. I thought I'll go see what Pitchfork said about August and Everything After. They weren't around in 1994, I don't believe, but they would have. They go back and all that kind of stuff. Did you know, here's a little piece of trivia. There's not one mention of Counting Crows on all of Pitchfork, except for one So there was one mention
Okay.
in all of Pitchfork. They've never reviewed an album. They've never gone back and reviewed August and Everything After. The only thing and it was recent, 2019, it was when Counting Crows went back and recorded the song August and Everything After. So August and Everything After is the title of the album. It is the lyrics on the cover of the album. The handwritten lyrics are to the song August and Everything After,
Okay.
which they never recorded.
Okay.
He had written, they thought about recording it. He didn't like it enough.
Okay.
And spoiler alert, the song's not very good.
So they made the right call.
They went and recorded in 2019, and it's an Amazon Music exclusive. It's with an orchestra. It's not good. The lyrics are clumsy. It's 9 minutes long. Which you don't want to hear Adam Duritz ramble for 9 minutes, knowing what we know today about,
Is the only version a live version?
It was recorded live, but in a studio. Recorded live in a studio. Yeah.
Because, I was going to say, that's not exactly his forte.
No, it's not. So there is this is one of the albums that definitely, one of the reasons it's so high on my list is for nostalgia. I remember where I was when I heard it the first time. Yeah. I remember reading the lyrics when it came out. As a dude, male lyricist, being so vulnerable in his lyrics at a time when I was vulnerable in my late teens, early 20s, it just hit me right where I was at, early college. I love all the mentions of specific places. This is a very country thing to do, to mention different towns or mostly different states, but Sullivan Street, Virginia and La Loma, Nashville, Omaha, Baltimore, people, Mr. Jones, Anna, Picasso, Dylan, Maria, who ends up being a character throughout Counting Crows' discography. What it does, it creates this entire universe, right? And you feel invested in what's happening to these people and where they are and where they're going. So I wrote, creates a world and populates it with characters you care about. Yeah. Right. Like Maria jump. You don't want Maria to jump in round here. Anyway. I don't know. Again, this is so close to home. I've talked about this album at length lyrically. I'm not a lyrics guy, but these lyrics hit me really hard. It's just so lovely. And so I've never gotten sick of it. I've listened to it consistently since 1993.
Other than Mr. Jones.
Mr. Jones, I do skip.
I don't need to hear that song.
I do skip Mr. Jones.
I wish I heard it about 100 times less.
That's probably true. That was a huge hit.
Yeah.
Huge hit.
Yeah.
And did they even play it when we went and saw them?
Probably, because they did everything possible to piss us off.
True, they probably did an extended version.
Yeah, exactly.
Where he bebops and scats all over the place.
From his car out back.
Right.
Because he can't be asked to move around the
Jesus
stage.
Christ, yeah.
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah. Anyway, that's August and Everything After.
Great fucking album.
Great fucking
Just go
album.
listen to it.
Please. Number 4.
And you have number 3.
I have number 3. At number 3, we've talked about this album a couple times in passing.
Quite a bit.
Yep. Yeah. It is Yankee Hotel Foxtrot.
Yankee Hotel Foxtrot.
By Wilco.
I can never not do that. So if you ever want me to shut up in any kind of situation, just say it, and I'll have to stop whatever I'm doing.
It's like Cartman and Come Sail Away.
Yes.
When he hears it, he has to sing the whole thing. 2002, 11 songs, 51 minutes. Their 4th album. So there was AM, Being There, Summer Teeth, then this, and then A Ghost Is Born. I don't know. I don't think we need to talk about it a whole lot if you're a member of the extended family, you've been watching us for a while, we have talked about it at length. So this was, I don't even know where to start here.
Well, one thing I thought was odd, at least according to Wikipedia, there's only one single, and it was War on War.
I guess I didn't know that.
I mean, again, it's a very blurry area now with singles.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
But still, this is 2002. It was a long time ago.
Yeah, right.
But it says that's the only single.
Okay. So, I mean, I didn't write down the whole track listing there. Do you have the whole track listing?
Lucky for you, I did.
Excellent.
But War on War, the only apparently official single.
Okay.
I Am Trying to Break Your Heart, Camera, Radio Cure, Jesus, Etc., Ashes of American Flags, Heavy Metal Drummer, I'm the Man Who Loves You, Pot Kettle Black, Poor Places, and Reservations.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, just hearing them.
Yeah. Before we move on to clean up the rankings, E had it at number 3.
Oh, yeah.
I had it at number 9. So I believe this is the first one we both had in the top 10.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. Yeah. If not, we'll say it is. Yeah. Fuck it. It's our show. Whatever the fuck we want.
That's right.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah. Highly recommend if you're someone who's into music documentaries, going and watching I Am Trying to Break Your Heart, which is a film by Sam Jones, because it gives the insight to the making of this album. Mm-hmm. So they're making this album. Basically, their record company says, go and do whatever you want. They go into their own studio in Chicago. They have instruments set up at all times, always plugged in and always ready to go in a big loft. And the idea is that they can just walk around and if they get an idea, they can go commit it to tape immediately. And so there's a lot of that. That's why you're getting all the layers of weird sounds and things on this album, is because they were just trying everything. Mm-hmm. There's this quote I mentioned, I've alluded to it before in a previous episode, but Wilco at its base, this is just a rock album. The songs are fairly simple and straightforward, especially songs like Heavy Metal Drummer, which are intentionally sort of straightforward. But what they talked about during the making of it is that we pretty much go for a straight, definitive version of what the song sounds like it should be, and then deconstruct it a little bit and see if there's more exciting way to approach it. There's no reason at all not to destroy it. We made it, so it's ours to destroy, and it's liberating and exciting in a really creative way. And I think that says a lot about what this album sounds like. It's a straight-ahead rock album, but it's been twisted in all these different dynamic sonic ways that make it really interesting, that make every track interesting and worth repeated listens.
Like Jesus, etc. That always,
what a great song,
pops into my head as something that is uniquely them.
Yes. Yeah, just that line, Jesus Don't Cry. I mean, incredible. Yeah. What other notes do I have here? So it's the making of the album. The documentary is the making of the album. They deliver the record. They're like, we don't see a single, and they get dropped from their label. They get another label to pick it up, who ends up being a subsidiary of the label that dropped them. So they end up getting paid for the album twice, which is fucking incredible. And then ends up making everyone's top. This is one of those albums that's in a lot of top 10s.
Right. This is one that you will see on lists, and deservedly so.
Yeah. The songs vary stylistically incredibly. You go from noisy and artsy. You have soft, Jesus, etc. is like a soft rock song. You have ballads, straight up rock songs. There's, songs have space to breathe when they need it to. Tweety has a knack for memorable lines. I am an American aquarium drinker is the opening lines to this album. What a great first line of an album. He has written multiple books about writing songs, and there's a reason why. Read his books. Anyway, distance has no way of making love understandable. I thought it was a really beautiful line on this album. You have to learn how to die if you want to be alive. Jesus Don't Cry. All my lies are always wishes. I was listening to that. I think that's on Poor Places. I thought that was a really interesting turn of phrase. Poor Places is my favorite track on the album. That's that one that does have Yankee Hotel Foxtrot at the very end of it.
Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. By the way, a uniquely spooky experience if you go, whether YouTube or pull it up somewhere, like the number stations.
The number station.
Which is where that comes from.
Yes.
Just listen. It's creepy as fuck.
Is it?
Yeah. I mean, it's ham radio, staticky, just numbers in different voices. And it's,
that's weird.
It's for spies.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. I'm sure we got on this tangent in a previous season.
I don't think so.
Maybe not. Number stations.
Okay.
Ham radio. Because, ham radio can go worldwide. Right. Like whatever those frequencies are. And this is, the assumption is, no one's confirmed it, this is how countries communicate with their spies overseas.
I see.
And it's usually just a series of repeating numbers, or there's some stations that have been playing the same thing for decades.
No shit.
And it'll be like a jingle followed by this, followed by that.
Okay.
And the theory is that these numbers that they're playing are different things, are codes, and that the spies have a decoder.
That's what the Turing machine was, right? Alan Turing, right? The first
with the Enigma.
Yeah.
Basically, that if you're a spy anywhere in the world, your government can talk to you in a coded language that everyone can hear, but only you understand.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where the sample comes from.
Okay. I don't know why they use that as the name of the album, or why they grabbed that sample.
That's good. Yeah. Maybe that's a good homework assignment.
It might be. God, I did plenty of homework. I've rewatched the movie.
Well, too bad.
I bought the deluxe reissue of this. The 20-year anniversary was in 2022, and this is one of those cases. We've done a whole episode on B-sides before. this is worth hearing what didn't come out, because if they're doing that much experimentation, the B-sides, there's just completely different reworked versions of the songs that were, versions that were the ones that they wanted to come out. Like I think I mentioned in the past, there's a version of I Am Trying to Break Your Heart with a full symphony behind it, but they couldn't get the rights to it, so they ended up having to scrap it. So it's worth checking out the deluxe version on Spotify as well.
Okay.
So, number three,
leaving only 2 more albums. One of which I will review to you now. And it's number 2, because we're going in order.
Yeah.
If you haven't noticed.
Yeah.
Number 2 is by Pearl Jam. 10, released in 1991. Again, you're not going to see this on top list because it's Pearl Jam and everyone knows it, therefore it can't be great.
Right.
E had it at 6. I had it at 5. 11 tracks, 54 minutes. Again, kind of I love, by the way, this saved me a lot of typing, that all these song names are one fucking word.
Yeah, right.
But the release songs were Alive, Even Flow, Jeremy, Oceans, which I don't really remember being released, but
No, I don't either.
yeah. Unreleased, Once, Why Go, Black, Porch, Garden, Deep, and Release.
More construction being done in the extended play studios. I don't know if you can hear it
but only 2-3 more episodes.
That's right.
And you're going to see the reveal of finally I get to sit facing the camera.
That's right.
Jesus fucking Christ. I've been waiting for that for a year. I don't, after we record a whole day, like my neck hurt. Like I can't sleep on this side. I'll start with the first.
Go for it.
Better Than Nevermind. Fight Me.
Yeah. We've said this a number of times.
You heard me.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I re-listened just today, and I hadn't listened to Jeremy in a long. So Jeremy's the one song, like kind of like Mr. Jones, I don't need to listen to ever again, but I can still listen to Alive. I can still listen to Even Flow.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Alive is so good.
Alive is so good.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's so many tidbits. I watched the whole PJ20, the documentary of them. They get into all the sort of lore about the band and how they came from other bands and they formed, and what the song Alive is about. If you don't know what it's about, look it up. It's heartbreaking and beautiful. One of the last great rock bands, right? And this is where it all starts. Talk about a fucking debut.
Seriously.
Right? Nothing sounded like it.
Yeah.
Grunge gets lumped into like that. There's this grunge thing. Obviously, there were copycats all over the place, but no, Pearl Jam didn't sound like Alice in Chains, who didn't sound like Soundgarden.
No.
Right? They all sounded very distinctly themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I in terms of feeling, my note is that this feels like a darker equivalent of What's the Story, Morning Glory. In terms of, quality, range.
Sure.
Just if you have What's the Story and you just bring the light down, I think you end up with something like this.
Yeah. Again, not a lyrics person, but I was before. And when I was this old, I think because I was looking for answers all the time. And again, one of the things that is a common thread between these albums is the emotional vulnerability of the singer.
Yeah.
And Eddie Vedder, watching these old performances of his, to see him live through the lyrics and to be emotionally moved by his own lyrics. And do yourself a favor, watch reaction videos to Black, and to Alive, and then to the Unplugged performances, which was mostly, it's just this album, right? They only had one album material out at the time. Anyway, just so like someone who cared that deeply and was unashamed to be that much, as the kids would say, in his feelings on stage at all times. I don't know. I find it so admirable, so charming, and something that really draws me into this album over and over again. It's crazy. It's on like classic rock radio. Yeah.
It's like death, it's
coming
death and
for it.
taxes.
That's right.
It's coming.
That's right.
The shit you like learn about classic something radio.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is just one of those albums that I don't know anyone who would not want to play it if you start playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Again, these are hard to talk about at this point because, especially an album like 10, if you haven't heard. Right. Again, if you're watching us and you haven't heard 10.
Right. Like if we were doing,
what are you doing?
Top 100 foods of all time and like number 2 cheeseburger, what the fuck are we going to talk about? It's fucking delicious.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, but one, and this has come up many times, but this is one of them. So I have to bring it up because it's fucking mind blowing to me and a pillar of my argument that music is only getting worse.
Jesus.
Friendly reminder. These albums were all released within 6 weeks of each other.
Okay.
In 1991.
Okay.
6 weeks.
Okay.
Blood Sugar Sex Magic.
Okay.
10. Bad Motorfinger, Nevermind, Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, and Metallica's Black Album.
Jesus Christ.
6 weeks apart.
That's crazy. Crazy.
We're lucky if we get one of that quality a year now. Right. From rock.
Was there just something... I'm sure there's going to be whole books if there's not already whole books.
Beato did a...
Oh, did he?
He did a 6 weeks to change music sort of thing.
Okay.
I mean, Blood Sugar Sex Magic is the weakest of all of them in there.
To say the least.
Yes. But even then, I mean, some memorable songs.
Absolutely.
But it is just, I mean, rock, just everything was coming together.
I wonder if that's like that, it's like the between the wars, right? There's no major catastrophes. There's no internet yet, right? So I wonder.
Coming out of hair metal and rock being taken more seriously, so many genres about to blow up, so many epic artists at their peak or starting an epic career. Fucking crazy. Yep. Anyway,
without further ado,
all that's left, folks.
That's right.
I'm going to get it ready.
The number one album of our lifetime, as according to us, the Extended Play Podcast. Please like and subscribe. You ready? It is simply the best, Tina. It is OK Computer by Radiohead. Again, this is an album that does show up on a lot of lists, and it does show up on a lot of lists as the number one album of all time as well. Maybe not as many, number one album of the 90s or something like that. But
it is 1997. It came out. E had it at number 2. I had it at number 4. And I want to talk about
let's get into it.
The fact that I had it at number 4. Radiohead has been the single biggest revelation to me of us working on this podcast. There's been a lot of obscure kind of fringe artists that have been exposed to like, oh, kind of like that, buy the album, buy the single, whatever. Radiohead was always one of those blind spots, gigantic blind spot that was like, all right, look, I know they're great. I don't have it in me. I got other shit that I like. right. And then it started with a trickle, like from some of the
playlist challenges,
my fives, that sort of things. So as you all know well by now, I have to buy it. If you hear it on this podcast, I generally have to buy it in order to download it and put it into the audio file. And so my feed, which I always listen to going from a descending order of purchase, which is, file created, whatever.
Yeah.
Sign up. And to do a lot of this, I had like 3 or 4 Radiohead albums in a row.
Okay.
And then I get started and working on the various things working on my computer, and I end up listening for hours at a time.
Sure.
So I have been exposed to these albums over and over and over again. And I get it. And the best, so I mean, and I like to read because I don't like to mess up a clearer thought that I had at another point in time. But I was on the outside looking in with Radiohead before this list, and certainly before the podcast. I mean, this list really made me get into it.
Sure.
I was the quintessential skeptic. I even, on some of the previous episodes, was like, come on, is it really that good?
Right. How could a band? Right. Yeah.
Wondering why they always topped all these critic lists and having doubts it really could be that good. Well, it is really that good. The best metaphor I can come up with for the experience is, I'm sure you've seen these videos. If you haven't, you can go Google and find one of colorblind people that put on these special glasses that let them see color for the first time.
Oh, wow.
You realize just how much more there is. And there's so much more depth than their contemporaries. So I listened to this stuff over and over. And I'm like, why is this so different?
Right.
It just is.
It just is.
And it's like, that's the best metaphor I can come up with. It's like that if you look at stuff, again, colorblind person, everything looks kind of drab, and it's whatever. This is the world. It's beautiful. It's whatever. But you put this on, there's just so much more. It's these nooks and crannies and nuances and sounds, and none of it hits you over the head.
Right.
And that's the genius of Radiohead.
Yes.
There's a lot of artists that they hit you over the head with like, look, it's different. look at what I, you see that?
Right.
It's different.
Right. No one's done that before.
Right. It's just so minute and tiny little adjustments here and there that added together create an entirely new experience that no one else can give you. Doesn't mean I love all the songs. Yes, Tom York and the band are collectively up their own asses too much. That's fine. But you've earned it.
You've earned it.
At that point, you've earned it.
Yes, sure.
So it's like, okay, I'll see him say or do. I'm like, okay, whatever, dude.
Right.
And I'm still working my way through the discography that I haven't gotten much past. In
Rainbow?
Wait, so we got OK Computer, Amnesiac.
Hail to the Thief.
In Rainbows after that?
In Rainbows, then King of Limbs, then A Moon-Shaped Pool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the last few, I got nothing, but I will get into it because I have to. And I love In Rainbows. If we had redone this, I'd have In Rainbows higher.
I think I might too.
I'm pretty sure it's my second favorite.
Yeah.
So before I turn it over to E,
yeah.
And the songs, I guess, which you're going to want to know. The released songs were Paranoid Android, Karma Police, Lucky and No Surprises. The unreleased songs, Airbag, Subterranean, Homesick Alien, Exit Music for a Film, Let Down, Fitter Happier, Electioneering. I love Electioneering.
Great songs.
It's just fucking jangly.
Yeah.
Climbing Up the Walls and The Tourist. Mm-hmm. So my final note on Radiohead before we get into the discussion here is The Bend is the entry point.
Yes.
So if I'm guessing a lot of you are like looking at this like, all right, great, it's one more fucking guy talking about Radiohead. Who cares?
Right.
So start with The Bend.
Yes.
And you can then probably OK Computer second.
Yeah.
Then go from there.
Yes.
Now you're set up. Now you've been warmed up.
Yeah.
And it's like a pool. It's now you can jump in.
Yeah.
But definitely do The Bends and OK Computer.
I agree.
And go from there. It's a journey worth taking. I promise you.
You could even go then from OK Computer to In Rainbows and then go back to Kid A.
Yeah. That's true.
That
In
might be a
Rainbows
good
before
path.
Kid A.
That might be a good path.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to say. I mean, I think that puts it very succinctly and very well. When I think of this album, I always think of the Rolling Stone cover that they were on, and the headline was, "In order to save themselves, Radiohead had to destroy rock and roll." And I love that because they were basically the biggest rock band in the world, and they started to tinker with everything. Mm-hmm. And again, still found a way to make immaculately crafted radio hit songs, but with all this nuance that made it worth re-listen after re-listen. Radiohead albums are headphone albums.
Yeah.
You are doing yourself a disservice if you don't put on headphones and listen to the production of it. This was the rare album that people knew immediately that it was a classic album.
Yeah.
As soon as it came out, everyone was like, what the fuck is this? Yeah. And immediately went to 10 out of 10, best album of the year. This is going to be on the all-time classics list, which says a lot. I can't think of an album recently that's been like that, other than, I think To Pimp a Butterfly was like that. People knew right away, this is an absolute classic rap album.
Yeah. Cowboy Carter.
Maybe. Whatever Shabuzi's album is.
Fucking Shabuzi. We'll save that for next week. No, you're right. And that was I think part of my aversion to Radiohead was I was sick of hearing about it. Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't in my wheelhouse and I couldn't get away from it. It's like, I got it. OK Computer. It's like a running joke.
Yep.
But, turns out.
I did read one piece that said that this was OK Computer is the logical end to the guitar rock era. And I thought, for two people that are really into guitar rock, there's plenty of good guitar rock after this.
Yes.
But it does taper.
Yeah.
It does taper pretty hard after 1997.
Yes.
Right? And then you only have the handful of bands still hanging on today.
No, that's true.
And you could say that this was the beginning of the end. Yeah. Really, in a way.
Yeah.
They basically took it apart. They did everything you could possibly do to a rock album. Probably people are intimidated by it, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. Like, well, we can't make that. So why make it at all?
I mean, this is even, this is in my flag bearer for the end of rock and roll, the Foo Fighters. Like, even this is about where they sort of come up. Okay. Right. So it's like, I think even then, as much as I love them, they weren't really doing anything new.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think, it's like, there's not a whole lot more you can do at some point.
Right.
Yeah.
So, favorite songs, Paranoid Android, Let Down, such a fucking good song. No Surprises, incredible. Karma Police, the sing-along to the end of Karma Police at their concerts. They close with Karma Police, and the entire crowd sings for a minute there, I lost myself. And it is incredibly, the hairs are standing up on my arms. It is an incredibly moving experience. If you haven't seen them live, I highly recommend going to see them live. We'll go next time they come. Yeah. If they reform, they should. Do yourself a favor, check out, I'll link below to a live version of it, because they've got a lot of live stuff on YouTube. But it's just incredible from start to finish. So dynamic. No two songs sound alike. Again, a running theme, I think, through a lot of this, right? Is that it's still a complete piece with taking you on a massive journey all the way through. That's it. That's our number one album.
Speaking of massive journey.
Yeah, we did it.
We did it. High five. That's the best visual summarization of this podcast ever. But no, I mean, it was an amazing journey. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of work. A lot of fun, a lot of work.
It was a lot of work.
And, but
let us know what you think.
Yeah. Especially all the new people. You're going to have thoughts.
Absolutely.
Like, even if you just looked at this top 10,
yeah,
I want you to go in the comments and answer, is this the best 10 of the 80 to 20, 1980 to 2020?
Yeah.
First of all, the answer is yes.
The answer is yes. Spoiler.
But give your thoughts on it. And do you think we missed obvious ones? I mean, again, there's probably 30, 40 albums that could fit in that category.
Funny that you mentioned that, because we just came off a episode. If you're watching this as your first episode, last week we did an episode on the albums that did not make our list of 100.
Yes.
So I will link to that up here. So again, go back, watch all the previous episodes, watch the episode where we talk about what didn't make the list, and let us know what you think. We're really curious, extended family.
Yeah.
How do we do? I think we did pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah, I think we did too.
A little biased, but anyway, that's it.
We will be back. We'll think of something next season. It won't be probably this big.
Probably not.
But
we do have a couple episodes left in this season. We're going to do year end, and that's it.
Maybe one more.
Maybe one
we'll
more.
See how we feel
best
Christmas
of
time.
2024. Yeah. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
See you.